She arrived at the divorce with a newborn baby and turned the tables on him. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us go back to our main character. The courthouse hallway smells faintly of old paper and polished wood. The air is cool, controlled, and unforgiving. People sit on hard benches, whispering to their lawyers, rehearsing endings they think they already understand. At the far end of the corridor, a door marked Family Court stands half open, waiting. He arrives first. He is calm, confident, immaculately dressed. The kind of man who believes today is just another transaction. His attorney walks beside him, papers neatly stacked, everything prepared for a clean and final break. At his other side is a woman who does not belong in this story, at least not on paper. She wears a soft smile and holds his arm like she has already won. He does not look back. He believes the rules are still his. Inside the courtroom, the judge reviews files. A clerk calls names. The sound of a gavel taps lightly, once, then twice. This is supposed to be quick. No arguments, no surprises. That was the agreement from the beginning. A contract marriage, a temporary solution. A signature meant to solve a problem, not create one. Then the door opens again. She steps inside quietly. No dramatic entrance, no raised voice, just steady footsteps against the floor. Heads turn before anyone understands why. She is not dressed for war or forgiveness. She is dressed simply, carefully, like someone who has learned to carry weight without asking for help. In her arms is a newborn baby. The room shifts. Whispers ripple across the benches. A pen slips from someone's hand. The woman at his side stiffens, her fingers tightening before she forces them to relax. His attorney looks up, confused. The judge pauses mid-sentence, and he finally turns around. For a brief second, his expression does not change. He scans the room the way he always does, assessing, calculating. Then his eyes land on her, on the child, on the small blanket wrapped tightly around a life he did not expect to see. Time stretches. The baby stirs softly, a quiet sound that cuts through the silence better than any shout ever could. She does not rush forward. She does not speak yet. She stands where everyone can see her, holding the child close to her chest, her shoulders straight, her face calm. She is not here to beg. She is not here to explain. She is here because this is where the truth belongs. He swallows. The woman beside him shifts her weight, suddenly unsure. This was not in the plan. This was not mentioned. This was not supposed to happen. The judge clears her throat. Is there an issue we should be aware of? No one answers immediately. The main character lifts her gaze, meeting his eyes for the first time since he walked away months ago. There is no anger there, no tears, only certainty. She has arrived for the divorce, and this time, she did not come alone. She does not move from where she stands. The baby rests quietly against her chest, wrapped in a pale blanket that looks far too soft for a place like this. The courtroom waits, but she does not rush to fill the silence. She has learned that silence, when chosen, can be louder than any accusation. This was never supposed to happen like this. Months earlier, when she first signed the contract, she told herself it was temporary, a clean arrangement, a name on paper in exchange for stability. He needed a wife for appearances, for inheritance, for control. She needed time, a roof, space to breathe. Love was not part of the deal, and neither of them pretended otherwise. They had rules, clear ones, no feelings, no questions, no crossing lines. And for a while, it worked. She played her role quietly. Dinners where she smiled but did not speak too much. Events where she stood one step behind him, perfectly composed, perfectly invisible. People saw the ring and assumed everything else. That was the point. But contracts are written by people, and people make mistakes. There was one night, late, when the house was too quiet and the walls felt closer than usual. One moment when the rules blurred, just enough. She did not plan it. She did not trap him. She did not imagine it would change anything. It was not love. It was human weakness. After that, he pulled away. The distance came quickly, shorter conversations, fewer shared spaces. Then the papers. The message was clear. The contract was over. The mistake would be erased. He moved on as if nothing had happened. She did not argue. By the time she realized she was pregnant, he was already gone. Those months were not kind to her. She left the house they had shared and moved somewhere smaller, quieter. She learned how to stretch $1, how to count weeks instead of days. Doctor visits, long nights, fear that settled in her chest like a weight she could not set down. She never called him. Not because she was proud, but because she understood exactly who he was. A man who believed control meant safety. A man who believed contracts were stronger than consequences. She chose silence. When the baby was born, everything changed. Not dramatically, not all at once, just a steady shift. The world narrowed to feeding schedules, soft breaths, and the simple truth that someone depended on her completely. She was no longer the woman from the contract. She was a mother. And still, the papers came. The divorce hearing was scheduled. His lawyer requested a fast resolution. No complications, no delays. He assumed she would sign and disappear, just as quietly as she had lived beside him. He assumed wrong. Back in the courtroom, the judge waits patiently. The woman beside him finally looks at her, really looks at her, and something like uncertainty flickers across her face. This was not supposed to be public. This was not supposed to be complicated. The main character takes one slow breath. She steps forward, just enough to be heard. She is not shaking. She is not here to accuse him of betrayal or cruelty. She is here because a contract does not erase biology, and silence does not erase time. She has carried this truth alone long enough. She looks at the judge, not at him. She understands the stakes. This room decides more than money or signatures. It decides whether her child will be treated like an inconvenience or a fact, whether the past will be rewritten or finally acknowledged. Behind her, the door closes softly. There is no turning back now. She shifts the baby slightly in her arms, careful not to wake him. The movement is instinctive, practiced. Her body has learned this rhythm over months of quiet nights and early mornings. The courtroom watches, but she does not rush. She knows this moment matters. The judge nods once, signaling that she may speak. Before any words leave her mouth, his attorney stands. "Your Honor," the lawyer says smoothly, already confident. "We would like to note for the record that this child has no relevance to the divorce proceedings. There were no children born of this marriage. The agreement was clear." The word agreement hangs in the air. She hears it, but she does not flinch. She has heard that word before, spoken with the same certainty, the same belief that paper could control reality. The judge looks at her, calm but curious. "Do you wish to respond?" She does. Her voice is steady when she speaks, quiet but clear enough to reach every corner of the room. "Yes, Your Honor." She pauses, just long enough to make people listen. "This child was conceived during our legal marriage." A murmur spreads through the courtroom, low and immediate. The woman beside him stiffens, her hand slipping from his arm without her realizing it. His attorney turns sharply, surprise flashing across his face before it is replaced by calculation. He does not speak yet. He stares at her, searching for something familiar, something weak, something he can dismiss. He does not find it. She continues. "There was a contract," she says, acknowledging the truth without shame. "But there was also a moment when the contract was broken. Not by me alone." Her eyes meet his now, briefly. She does not accuse him with anger. She simply includes him in the truth. He swallows. The judge raises a hand, quieting the room. "Do you have documentation?" She nods. She reaches into her bag, slowly, deliberately. Every movement is calm. She has had time to prepare, months of it. She hands a folder to the court clerk, who passes it forward. Inside are medical records, dates, names, timelines that do not bend to opinion. The judge scans the first page, then the second. Her expression shifts, just slightly. "This places conception within the marriage," the judge says. "Yes," she answers, "it does." The woman beside him steps back as if the air has suddenly grown colder. This is no longer a rumor or a performance. This is math, biology, time. His attorney leans in, whispering urgently. He shakes his head once, almost imperceptibly. He did not expect this. He did not plan for it. He thought she would disappear quietly, as she always had. The baby stirs again, a soft sound, barely more than a breath. The sound lands harder than any argument. The judge looks at him now. "Do you dispute the timeline?" He opens his mouth, then closes it. For the first time since this hearing began, he has nothing ready. "No," he says finally. The word is tight, controlled. "I do not." The room feels different after that. He can sense it. Power does not vanish all at once. It shifts. It moves. It chooses a new center. The judge nods again. "Then we will proceed accordingly." She exhales slowly, not in relief, but in acknowledgement. This was the point of no return. She did not come here to humiliate him. She came because the truth deserved a seat at the table. She looks down at her child, adjusting the blanket once more. The baby is unaware of contracts, of courtrooms, of reputations on the line. He knows only warmth and safety. And for the first time, the man who once believed everything could be controlled realizes that something in this room never belonged to him at all. The judge calls for a short recess. People stand. Chairs scrape softly against the floor. The tension does not leave the room when they do. It only changes shape. Conversations begin in low voices, careful and restrained, as if everyone senses they are standing too close to something fragile. She remains seated. The baby sleeps again, his tiny chest rising and falling in a rhythm that steadies her more than any deep breath ever could. She strokes the edge of the blanket with her thumb, grounding herself in something real. Across the room, he paces, not far, just enough to release energy without drawing attention. His attorney speaks quickly, flipping through pages that suddenly feel insufficient. This hearing was supposed to be procedural, controlled. He was supposed to walk out untouched. Now, every assumption is under review. The woman who arrived with him stands near the wall, arms crossed. Her confidence has thinned. She looks at him, waiting for reassurance, but he does not notice. His focus is fixed on the floor, on the math he should have done months ago. When the judge returns, the room settles again. "We will continue," she says calmly. "Given the information presented, this court must consider matters beyond the initial filing." She looks directly at him. Specifically, paternity. His jaw tightens. He nods once. The judge turns back to her. "You understand that this process will require verification?" "Yes, Your Honor," she answers. "I am prepared for that." There is no hesitation in her voice, no fear of tests or timelines. She has lived with the truth too long to be afraid of proof. His attorney clears his throat. "Your Honor, my client requests time to review the documents and proceed with appropriate testing." "Granted," the judge replies. "However, until paternity is resolved, the court will not finalize this divorce." The words land heavily. Not finalizing means delay, scrutiny, exposure. It means control slipping through fingers that have always held it tightly. The woman beside him stiffens. "What does that mean?" she whispers, too quietly for the court, but loud enough for him. He does not answer. She gathers her purse instead, anger flashing across her face before she reins it in. This is not the ending she expected either. The judge addresses the room again. In the meantime, temporary arrangements will be discussed at the next hearing. She nods, accepting the reality of what comes next. She did not come here expecting relief. She came expecting resistance. As people begin to file out, conversations rise again, sharper now. Curiosity replaces boredom. Names will be searched, timelines questioned. This story will not stay contained within these walls. She stands slowly, careful not to wake the baby. For a brief moment, their eyes meet again. This time, he looks at her differently. Not as a problem to be solved or a clause to be removed, but as a variable he can no longer control. Something in his expression cracks, just enough to show confusion beneath the certainty. She does not wait for him to speak. She turns and walks toward the door, each step deliberate. She does not rush. She does not look back. Behind her, he realizes something too late. This hearing was never about the divorce. It was about the fact that a contract could end, but consequences do not disappear just because someone wishes them away. And for the first time since this began, he understands that whatever happens next will not be decided by him alone. She does not leave the courthouse immediately. Outside, the afternoon light is sharp, almost blinding after the muted tones of the courtroom. She pauses on the steps, adjusting the blanket around the baby as a cool breeze passes. The world continues as if nothing has changed. Cars move, people talk. Life does not stop for revelations, but something inside her has shifted. For months, she lived quietly, preparing for this day without knowing exactly how it would unfold. She imagined anger. She imagined confrontation. She imagined having to defend herself against disbelief. What she did not expect was how calm she would feel once the truth was spoken aloud. Inside the building, he remains behind. His attorney speaks, but the words blur together. Strategy, timelines, damage control. None of it lands the way it used to. His thoughts keep returning to the moment she stood there, holding the baby, unmoved by the pressure of the room. He had assumed silence meant weakness. He had assumed distance meant compliance. He had been wrong. When he finally steps outside, the woman who arrived with him is already gone. She did not wait. There was nothing left for her to say. The image he had carefully constructed has begun to fracture, and she refuses to stand beneath falling pieces. He scans the steps instinctively, searching for her. She is already halfway down the sidewalk, not hurried, not hiding, just moving forward, one step at a time. He considers calling her name. The impulse surprises him. For years, he built his life on leverage and timing. He knew when to speak and when to stay silent. But now, every option feels uncertain. Words, once reliable, suddenly seem inadequate. She does not turn around. She has spent enough time waiting for him to decide something. The days that follow are heavier than she expected, but not unbearable. Lawyers call, paperwork arrives, appointments are scheduled. She answers what she must and ignores what she can. Her focus stays where it belongs, on the baby. At night, when the world quiets, she rocks him gently, listening to his breathing. These moments remind her why she came to court in the first place. Not for revenge, not for money, but because some truths deserve recognition, even if they complicate everything. Across the city, he sits alone in his office long after everyone else has gone home. The glass walls reflect his image back at him, unfamiliar now. He replays the hearing, the judge's voice, the way the room shifted when the facts were laid out. He had believed the contract would protect him from consequences. Instead, it revealed how limited his control truly was. For the first time, he wonders what it would have cost him to act differently months ago, to ask questions, to listen, to take responsibility before it was demanded in a public room. That opportunity has passed. What remains is reality. The next hearing date looms, closer than he would like. His name, once carefully managed, now carries questions. Not accusations yet, but curiosity. And curiosity is dangerous. She feels it too, the pull of what comes next. But she is no longer afraid. She came to the divorce expecting resistance. She left knowing she had already reclaimed something far more valuable than a favorable ruling, her voice. And no contract can take that away from her now. The days leading up to the next hearing pass faster than she expects. Appointments fill her calendar. Medical offices, legal consultations, quiet rooms where signatures are placed carefully on paper that will shape the rest of her life. Through it all, the baby remains calm, unaware of the weight his existence now carries beyond her arms. The paternity test is scheduled without drama. She arrives early, as she always does. The technician explains the process in a neutral tone, routine and unremarkable. A simple swab, a sealed envelope, science, not opinion. She watches as the sample is taken from the baby, then from him later that afternoon, in a different building, on a different floor, surrounded by people who do not ask questions, but already know the answer will matter. Neither of them speaks during the process. There is nothing left to negotiate. When the results arrive days later, they are exactly what she expected, and exactly what he feared. Clear, undeniable, no room for interpretation. The child is his. At the follow-up hearing, the courtroom feels different again, less curious, more attentive. This is no longer speculation. This is confirmation. The judge reviews the report carefully, then looks up. Paternity has been established, she says plainly. The words do not echo, but they do not need to. They land where they are meant to. The woman who once stood beside him is nowhere to be seen. There is an empty seat where she used to sit, and no one asks about it. Her absence answers every question. His attorney clears his throat, but there is no argument left to make. The strategy has shifted from avoidance to containment, from denial to mitigation. The judge turns to him. This court will now consider custodial responsibility and financial obligation. He nods once, slower this time. There is no confidence in the movement, only acceptance. She listens quietly as figures are discussed, schedules outlined, legal terms layered carefully into sentences meant to sound orderly. She does not interrupt. She does not argue. She knows the truth has already done the hardest part. When the judge asks if she has anything to add, she stands. She does not look at him. "I am not here to punish anyone," she says. "I am here to ensure my child is recognized and protected." Her voice does not waver. The judge nods, satisfied. As the hearing concludes, the room empties again. But this time the silence feels final, rather than suspended. Something has been decided, something irreversible. Outside, he stops her. Not abruptly, not dramatically, just enough to be heard. "We need to talk," he says. She turns slowly. For the first time, she really looks at him. Not as the man who controlled the contract, not as the husband on paper, but as someone standing on unfamiliar ground. "There will be time to discuss logistics," she answers. Nothing more. She does not wait for a response. As she walks away, the baby shifts against her shoulder, letting out a small sound, a reminder of what matters most. Behind her, he remains still. He has lost control of the narrative, the timing, and the outcome. What remains is responsibility, and responsibility does not negotiate. For the first time since the contract was signed, the future is no longer something he can design alone. The ruling does not end the tension. It sharpens it. In the days after paternity is confirmed, the pressure shifts from the courtroom to the world outside. Lawyers move quickly. Statements are drafted. Meetings are scheduled behind closed doors. His name begins to appear in places it did not before. Not in headlines yet, but in conversations that carry weight. Boardrooms, family offices, private circles where reputation matters as much as numbers. He feels it immediately. Questions arrive disguised as concern. Longtime partners ask for updates. Advisors remind him of optics, of timing, of how situations like this can spiral if not handled carefully. Everyone speaks calmly, but the message underneath is the same. This is becoming a liability. He suggests a settlement, generous, quiet, designed to close the matter without further exposure. His attorney presents it as practical, even kind, financial security, a structured agreement, a future arranged neatly on paper. She listens without interrupting. Then she says no. Not angrily, not defiantly, simply no. She does not want secrecy. She does not want favors disguised as solutions. She wants acknowledgement, not control wrapped in compensation. Her refusal unsettles him more than any accusation ever could. The next hearing approaches, and with it, something he did not anticipate. The court requests a full disclosure of assets, not because she demands it, but because the law requires transparency once a child is involved. Numbers that were once carefully compartmentalized now belong in official records. Trusts, holdings, accounts that were never meant to be discussed in this context. The courtroom fills again. This time, the audience is different. Fewer spectators, more professionals, people who understand exactly what is at stake. The judge reviews documents with quiet precision, her questions direct and unsentimental. She does not raise her voice. She does not need to. The facts speak clearly. Financial responsibility is outlined. Support is mandated, not as punishment, but as obligation. The language is firm, unyielding. There is no room for negotiation where a child is concerned. He nods through it all. Every answer he gives feels like another layer of control slipping away. Not dramatically, but permanently. When the ruling is read, the room is silent. The court recognizes the child, establishes support, confirms ongoing responsibility. Justice, in this moment, is not loud. It is methodical. She feels it settle into place, not as triumph, but as balance restored. She does not smile. She does not look at him. She holds her child a little closer and listens until the final word is spoken. Outside, reporters wait at a distance. He avoids them. She does not. She walks past without comment, her face calm, her posture steady. She owes no one an explanation. The truth has already been spoken in the only place that matters. Later that evening, he sits alone again. Not in his office this time, but at home, surrounded by space that suddenly feels empty. The contract marriage was designed to protect his world from disruption. Instead, it revealed how fragile that world truly was. He realizes something then, quietly, without drama. This was never about losing money or status. It was about losing the illusion that everything could be controlled, and that loss is final. Across town, she rocks her child to sleep. The day has been long, the future remains uncertain, but one thing is clear now. She did not walk into that courtroom to be saved. She walked in to stand her ground, and the ground did not move beneath her feet. The weeks after the ruling unfold with a quiet finality. Life does not suddenly become easier, but it becomes clearer. The noise fades. The urgency dissolves into routine. Paperwork replaces tension. Schedules replace arguments. The legal process moves forward without drama now, because there is nothing left to contest. She settles into a rhythm. Mornings begin early, shaped by feedings and soft light through the window. Afternoons pass in measured steps, walks through familiar streets, small errands that anchor her to the present. Evenings are calm, tired but calm. The baby grows heavier in her arms, stronger each day, and with that weight comes certainty. She does not wait for messages that never arrive. He sends them anyway, short at first, careful, practical, questions framed as responsibility, not regret. She responds when necessary, briefly and without emotion, logistics only, boundaries clearly drawn. There is no confusion about what this is and what it is not. He struggles with that more than he expected. The court has closed the case, but the consequences remain. Friends ask fewer questions now, but they watch more closely. His world adjusts around a truth he can no longer edit. Meetings feel longer. Decisions carry more weight. Control, once effortless, now requires explanation. One evening, he asks to meet, not to negotiate, not through attorneys, just to talk. She considers the request longer than she expected to. In the end, she agrees to a brief meeting in a neutral place. Public, simple, no room for misunderstanding. They sit across from each other, a small table between them. He looks different, not broken, but quieter, less certain. The confidence remains, but it no longer fills the room. He thanks her for coming. She nods. He speaks about responsibility, about doing what is required, about wanting to be involved in a way that respects her boundaries. His words are careful, rehearsed, shaped by counsel and consequence. She listens without interrupting. When he finishes, she speaks. "This is not about what you want now," she says calmly. "It is about consistency, about showing up without conditions." He absorbs that in silence. There is no reconciliation in her tone, no invitation, only clarity. They part without drama. In the weeks that follow, his efforts become quieter, steadier. No grand gestures, no attempts to rewrite the past, just presence, measured and appropriate when allowed. She watches from a distance, not as a judge, but as a mother protecting what matters most. She does not soften, she does not harden either. She simply remains herself. One afternoon, as she watches her child sleep, she reflects on the woman she was when the contract was signed. Careful, accommodating, invisible by design. That woman feels distant now, like someone she once knew but no longer recognizes. The contract is over. The role she played has ended. What remains is not revenge or triumph, but something far more solid: agency. She did not turn the tables to win. She turned them to stand upright in a room that expected her to bend. And she does not bend anymore. The final hearing arrives without spectacle. No crowded benches, no whispers, just procedure, signatures, and a closing statement read in an even tone. The divorce is finalized. The responsibilities are defined. The law does what it is meant to do, and then steps aside. When it is over, she walks out into the afternoon sun with the same calm she has carried since the first day she entered that courthouse. Nothing dramatic happens. No confrontation, no apology spoken aloud. Some endings are quiet because they are complete. Time moves forward. Months pass. The baby grows stronger, heavier, more curious. Laughter begins to fill the small apartment, replacing the silence that once lived there. She learns new routines, new balances, new versions of herself. Motherhood does not soften her resolve. It sharpens it. She builds a life that does not depend on anyone's permission. Work becomes steadier, choices become intentional. She does not rush. She does not look back to measure what could have been. The past no longer demands her attention. He remains present as required, consistent where it matters, not as a savior, not as a solution, simply as someone who understands, finally, that responsibility is not optional. There are no grand speeches, no attempts to reclaim what is gone. Some lessons arrive too late to change the ending, but just in time to change the future. One evening, as she watches her child sleep, she reflects on how close she came to disappearing quietly, signing papers, accepting terms, letting a contract define her worth. That version of her feels like a shadow now, something she stepped out of when she chose to walk into that courtroom with truth in her arms. She did not raise her voice. She did not ask for sympathy. She stood still and let reality speak. That was enough. Across the city, he stands at his window, watching lights flicker on as night settles in. His life continues, altered but intact. He understands now that power is not the absence of consequences. It is the ability to face them. What they shared was never love, but what came from it changed them both. The story does not end with reconciliation or regret. It ends with clarity, with boundaries respected, with a child who will grow up knowing that his existence was acknowledged, not hidden. She closes the door gently that night, turning off the lights one by one. In the quiet, there is no bitterness, no victory speech, only a steady sense of self. She did not turn the tables to destroy him. She turned them to reclaim her dignity. And that is the kind of ending that does not need an audience to endure.